Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
All good?
Okay, first of all, I think the first item of the day, let's have a look. First item of the day, I think it's happy birthday to Eileen. I understand is in order. So, I won't sing to you because I really don't like my singing voice, but happy birthday, happy, very, very, very many returns.
No, you can try. I'll accept your trial.
Maybe Duncan can sing it.
Yeah, do a
Get
duo.
the guitar out.
Duncan is in the business, so he can do a little by the end. He can get his guitar out, I suppose, and do a little happy birthday. We won't ask you to do a Marilyn Monroe, but there you go. I've made you co-host. Duncan, I just sent you the link to
Just
the
posting
to
it.
the YouTube. Okay,
That's live.
all right. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Crypto Hour. Only a few things to talk about this week, and I think it might have been quite a busy week from the news point of view. But as I the main thing has been the Bitcoin ETF that started trading this week. It was approved last week, and it started trading this week. I mean, we've been talking about it in this room for months. And we said that Bitcoin ETF will bring a lot of new funds into the crypto markets, and what we've seen this week. And let me start sharing my screen straight away. So I can show you. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen? Oh, sorry, no, it's not what I want to show you. But, okay, can you see my screen now? Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of like just to show you what the global value of the whole cryptocurrency market is, and what we've seen this week is the whole market reaching to $2.7 trillion, which is the highest it's ever been, and this is where the previous high was about 2.5 and a half in May. Before we had that the huge drop in price of Bitcoin. We went from, as you can see, 2.5 to 1.4, losing pretty much excuse me just a second, losing about 40%, more than 40% of its market value. But it's been climbing steadily ever since, and following the release of the ETF, now we're reaching new highs. And you can see now we are at the moment at just refresh and see what it is right to this minute. We're just about $2.7 trillion, and I can tell you that it won't take long for this to get to about 3 and to get through the $3 trillion barrier. Let's have a look on the charts and see exactly what you can see. This is the daily chart. Something a bit shorter. So we've seen what the announcement brought with us. Was today the 22nd. It was last weekend. So this is the point where when it was announced. Okay, so this is the level where we were. It was about it was expected, because the filing were in the system, and we were expecting a decision by the end of this month, and the SEC couldn't delay the decision any longer, so the other had to say yes or no, and they're running out of reasons why to deny these ETFs. So we went, obviously there was a really kind of a wide increase in price on the news. And so we went from about 55,000 to 67, and the previous high was broken quite comfortably. As you can see, the previous high was 64.8. Okay, so it was up here. So you can see we went well over it from over 65, we reached 67,000, and now, as always, whenever there's a new high, then there is a pause because of people that take profit. So we've now gone down a little bit from 67 to where we are now, to 62.5. But it's a very, as you can see, it's at the moment it's been like a one-way street from 40,000 to where we are now. Okay, and the thing is that looking at the numbers on chain, we see a lot of retail investors coming into Bitcoin. So we see a lot more wallets with smaller amounts of Bitcoins, and this is what happened, earlier on in the year in January, and those are the people that then were kind of driven out of the market when the price went right down, and now they're coming back. Basically, so generally, it's this FOMO, fear of missing out, that fuels any rally. But this is just starting. We're seeing the start of this with Bitcoin. We're, the expectation is now, when there is a new high being formed, that the price will test previous resistance. We can see here, we are at the previous high before we hit the all-time high here. This is where we are at the moment sitting on, and generally, I mean, it might just bounce from here, or it might go a little bit lower, but there is a lot of activity going on, not just in Bitcoin, but in many other cryptocurrencies. And a lot of the activity is centered around the decentralized finance sector. So you might have followed, and some of the news that I wanted to talk to you about today are relevant to different money that's being put on different blockchains to sorry, what am I? So, for example, the latest one is Polkadot. Now, the Polkadot will invest over $800 million to develop decentralized finance applications on Polkadot, and to improve the ecosystem. The same thing, what was announced in Binance will invest $1 billion. Okay, to invest in its own ecosystem and in applications, decentralized apps on the Binance on a Binance Smart Chain. We've heard before. We covered, I think last week, we're talking about Avalanche, Solana, Phantom, Algorand. These are all Cosmos. These are all projects that have received substantial investment in decentralized finance, and what we really are seeing is a lot of the hedge funds and wealthy investors that are now supporting the decentralized sector. They're trying to get a handle on the sector, because they can see it's what is eroding the banks and the traditional financial system market share. And what really is happening is that it's not that the banking will collapse all of a sudden in the next 5 minutes. But what's happening, and I tell you what, the banking sector is taking notice of this. It is affecting their margins, okay? Because whatever you might say, obviously it's a very strong infrastructure, banking and financial sector infrastructure, so it will find a way of surviving. But they have got a very high cost structure. So if you think about, if you go into any high streets, how many banks do you see in the high street? They occupy most of the real estate, on a town centers. So they've got they employ a lot of people. They spend a lot of money on systems. and their acquisition costs of new customers is very high. Okay, so in general, you know, for each new customer for a bank, you know, they spend between $500 to $1,500 to acquire a new customer. You know, compare this to Square or PayPal, you know, whose cost of acquisition is about $20. And they're seeing, I think, people, especially millennials, move to these different things, because a millennial doesn't want to sit for 2 hours in a bank and fill out, you know, 10 pages of forms to just open a bank account. They can just open one online, and they're off. You know, they're off, and they can start doing things with their account in about 10 minutes. So they are losing kind of that edge. And if you take, you know, 2, 3, 4% of margin from the banks, it makes a difference between them being profitable and not being profitable, especially for the ones that are not, you know, particularly well run. So we might see as a it's a trend that will continue. The trend has been going on since 2008. Has been a consolidation in the banking system. So you'll see smaller players slowly disappearing, and these huge conglomerates getting bigger, but at the same time restructuring in the way they do business, and eliminated a lot of the kind of real estate infrastructure that it doesn't really make sense for them to keep supporting. So we'll see that, and at the same time we're seeing that the you know, the online banking sector has been growing very fast. You know, as I said, we're talking about Square, not just Square and PayPal, but obviously, you know, banks like you know, in the UK, for example, we've got Revolut, Starling Bank, TransferWise, for a European banking institution. So this is very, very significant. Okay, and if you just start Googling decentralized finance, and you'll see a lot of these news. I mean, they're coming thick and fast, really. So if everybody's taking, you know, notice, and big banks are taking notice, so should you, really. This is another tweet related to, you know, the Binance Growth Fund being launched. The other bit of news, you know, I'm talking about Bitcoin futures, and there's just another one that's being has received approval, and should start trading next week. So there have been, I think it was 23 filings in the pipeline for Bitcoin ETFs. Okay, so obviously not all of them will be approved, but we will see new ETFs coming to market. The one that's been launched this week is at over 1 billion of transaction value within the first day. So you can see how much interest there is, and it's been the second most successful ETF launch in history. Okay, so there's a lot of interest around this. Now there's going to be more ETFs, which are, by the way, exchange traded funds. Okay, so it's a fund that invests in Bitcoin that you can buy directly on the stock market, the same as you will buy any shares of any company. So, and it got very little. Generally, they got very little management fees attached to it. So it's a passive, what is called a passive fund. Okay. Now that the SEC has approved Bitcoin ETFs, it won't be long before Ethereum ETFs come onto the market as well, and mixes of Bitcoin ETFs. And then basically they've opened the door now. So, you know, slowly we'll see new, you know, some of the top 10 cryptocurrencies that will make their way into exchange traded funds. So basically what it does for the crypto industry, it brings new liquidity onto the market, especially with people that are not comfortable interacting directly with crypto. You know, so in this way, you can just, as long as you have a trading account with any broker, you can now, you know, with even like Robinhood or anything like that, you can just go online and get access to Bitcoin without any complicated issue or having to understand how the thing works. Okay, so it's really makes it easy for people to participate, and it brings a lot of liquidity onto the crypto industry. Now, another thing though that I wanted to mention that came out when Bitcoin reached new highs this week, there was also an issue. There was what is called a flash crash. Okay, a flash crash in Bitcoin price. So very, very briefly, and this is a matter of seconds, the Bitcoin price went from, in Binance US, which is obviously one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the US, went from 65,000 to below 10,000. Okay, and this is what I wanted to make you understand. When I say, if any of you are involved in trading in crypto, be very, very, very careful. First of all, never borrow, because something like this, and this is just like really a freak event, because it was down to a bug in one of the big banks, and into they bought, they used for trading, that created a lot of selling pressure. But what happens is that if you have borrowed money and you are trading on margin, and this happens, you just get liquidated like this, in a matter of seconds, because you won't have time to put more funds onto your account to fund it. And they just basically, Binance said, well, you don't have enough money in your account to support that trade, we'll sell it in the market. So you find yourself being liquidated. And the other thing is that if you have placed a stop loss order, because you're thinking, well, Bitcoin is at 65, I might place a stop loss, let's say under 50,000, in case it goes down below that level, I'll get covered. What you would have seen is that in a few seconds, it went from 65 to 8,000. Your stop loss would have been triggered. The price has gone back to 65. Now, you have lost all that money without really being any safer, because the price would have gone down so quickly that your stop loss that you could maybe at 50,000 would have been triggered maybe at 30, maybe at 25. Very, very low, because what you got to understand is what stop loss is a trigger that creates a market order. So when the price hits your stop loss, have a look on something like this. Okay, so you might put your stop loss, let's say, behind this line, because you think, they can see a lot of activity here. I know that maybe if the price goes back below this, then there is a reversal of trend and we're going into a bear market. Let's say this may be your reasoning. Okay, and what happens technically is you might, let's say here at 53,476, you might put a stop loss at that level. What happens is that when price hits that level, the system will create a market order to sell your Bitcoin at market price. Okay, normally Bitcoin is very liquid, so generally there isn't a problem with that. But in freak events like that, there might not have been there any buy order for you to buy your Bitcoin. So what the software will do, will find the next available buy order. That next available buy order is not necessarily at 53,476, but it could be at 10,000. Wherever the next buy order is, you get your trade executed. Okay, so you've got to be very careful in crypto to work with stop loss orders because of these issues. Okay, and there are stories. So any of you that have done trading will have stories like that. And you see, like for example here, this is the international Binance. You don't see that spike. So that price is not even seen on this chart. It's only seen in the Binance US chart. Okay, so people in the US would have had this problem, but here in the UK or anywhere else in the world, nobody has. Okay, so be very, very careful. These are centralized brokers, and there are problems like this that happen all the time. Okay, so first of all, very careful, be very careful trading crypto at all. Secondly, if you do trading, how you do it is even more important. Okay. Now, so having talked about that, the other two things that are really interesting to notice, obviously the other big items during the week was the Facebook that launched a cryptocurrency wallet called Novi. Now this is a pilot in the sense that it's not available worldwide, but it's only available to selected users in the US and in Guatemala. So it is a pilot to target the remittance market between the US and Guatemala to see how it goes. And Coinbase, the way they have let's say linked with Coinbase, Coinbase will do the custody for this wallet. So they will keep hold of make sure that the coins are safe. Now there has been a lot of backlash against Facebook because they don't have a good press at the moment, with everything that comes out on Facebook and the way they look after their customers' data. So from the regulator, from the Senate and the House of Representatives, there have been a lot of calls for Facebook to stop this pilot straight away. Don't even start it. But apparently they are going ahead trying to. So we'll see what happens if there's going to be a case against them or not. But we'll see. But what is interesting? Why is this interesting? Is because Facebook is Facebook. It's got billions of users worldwide. So if they roll out this on a worldwide level, and this is just at the moment just a wallet. They're not even talking about the a stable coin, because Facebook is developing its own stable coin called Diem, as you can see here. And so it's not even about the stable coin. At the moment they're using Paxos, which is something that's been around for. Is a stable coin that has been around for years. But if they release this worldwide, it means they will bring crypto to their own audience, which is huge. So it will make it, when people see it in their social media, it makes it more real. Makes it, well, my friend Joe is using this, and so he told me that I can download it here, and it's easy to do and it's straightforward. So it might bring a lot of new users to crypto. Whatever we think about Facebook, they do have a huge audience that listens to what they do. So and it may bring a lot of users that they are not crypto natives. So they're not the kind of people that normally would be attracted to this, but it's becoming now mainstream. So everybody will start getting involved because they see everywhere from their friends, and they see from apps they've used for years that crypto is available. So they start playing around with it, and once you start, you get more and more involved as you go along. The last bit of news before we open up for questions is Associated Press. Now let me explain what this means. Associated Press is a very well-respected press agency. It's been going on for over 150 years. A bit like Reuters, a little bit like Bloomberg, and so on. So what they're starting to do, they're starting to use, they would run a Chainlink node. Chainlink is an oracle. So Chainlink is a data provider to smart contracts, okay? Because smart contracts are just a series of if and then kind of instructions. But basically I will say, okay, if, I don't know, it rains on the first day of Wimbledon, as it always does here in the UK, Luca will give Duncan $10, for example. That would be a very simple smart contract. Or another bit more complicated one, I would say, if, that particular flight from Dallas to New York on the 25th of October, if it leaves with more than 10 hours delay, then, somebody that's bought the ticket with this insurance will be refunded in full. Okay, now, who tells the smart contract exactly what time that particular plane left the airport? Okay, and this is an oracle. It is an external data source that connects to the smart contract and inputs the data that the smart contract needs to operate. Okay, now the Associated Press, which is a very reputable press agency, will actually publish its data on the blockchain. Okay, and we see this more and more. It's a way of validating as well, because there is there are so many fake news at the moment, and it's one way that we can kind of like fight that, is to have real validated news published on the blockchain in a way that everybody they're transparent, and for everybody can see what's being published and it's then some of this data will be used by Chainlink to then transmit to the smart contracts that connect with it. And Chainlink, by the way, is the market leader on this. Recently, they were, during the Cardano summit, for example, they launched a way of connecting Chainlink to Cardano smart contracts that were enabled in September, and so on. And they provide a lot of the data to the Ethereum apps, and they are now connecting to other blockchains as well, so they can provide data to those blockchains too. Okay, I think I covered most of these. Actually, just the one little thing as well is talking about Polkadot. One of the things that you might have noticed that Polkadot has gone up in price very sharply in the past week or so, because they announced that in November they're going to start the auctions for what they call the parachains, and those are the way that Polkadot will provide functionality on the blockchain. Okay, because they're going to have a main blockchain that's called the relay chain. That is the way you have the main bits of data and some central functionality, and then you're going to have all these different parallel. That's why it's called parachains, parallel chains that specialize in different activities. And there are different projects that can bid to win a slot, because there's only a certain number of parachains available, only about 100, and those will be auctioned out for a period of up to 2 years. Okay, so projects can bid for these slots, and you can, if you hold Polkadot, you can participate in what is called a crowd loan. Okay, and this is the way you participate. And the innovation is that if you have Polkadot in your wallet, you don't need to spend it. You don't need to give it to anybody. You don't need to invest money. What you do is basically you support one of the projects that participate in the auction with your Polkadot, and you kind of like bond your Polkadot as much as you want to support it with. Let's say that you got, I don't know, $500 in Polkadot. You bond those Polkadot tokens to that particular project. If the project loses the auction, then the bond is broken, and you can carry on using your Polkadot as normal. If it wins, your DOT are bonded to that project for the duration of the slot. So if it is 2 years, it means that for those 2 years, you can't stake your Polkadot or do anything else with it because it's bonded with that project. But in return, you will be given tokens by the new project. So now you still have your Polkadot, because those Polkadots that you bonded, they are still sitting in your wallet. They haven't gone anywhere. But you have tokens in another project as well. And those tokens normally, because there is a lot of hype, a lot of attention around this, they thought that it might increase in value a lot. So you can then stake those tokens, do whatever you want with those, and you still have your Polkadot. And when the bonding period ends, then you have your tokens back, and you have the new tokens too. So you got two for the price of one, really. The only cost involved in this, or such, is an opportunity cost, because while your Polkadot are bonded, you're not receiving rewards for staking them. Okay, so instead of receiving rewards in Polkadot, you get the new tokens, and then you can start receiving rewards for those if you want to stake them, or you can sell the new tokens. You do whatever you like. But for the bonding period, you won't receive any staking rewards in Polkadot. Okay, so that's your opportunity cost. But you still keep your tokens, and you get the new ones. And a similar system is being adopted by some of the projects they're releasing on Cardano. So you keep your Cardano tokens, you can then delegate them to a staking pool, and you get rewards in the new project that you support. Okay. So let me stop sharing, and let's start the questions.
Okay, so we do have a very knowledgeable bunch of Crypto Hour viewers because everybody, as ever, knows everything there is to know about crypto and hasn't really got any questions. But I'm sure they'll be coming thick and fast soon, as soon as we start running out of time. Greg has got a nice 3-part question that should keep us going for a while. It's a bit crystal ball-y, but I'm sure you can get your teeth into this. Where do you see Bitcoin and possibly any of the other top 10 coins going in this bull run, and how long do you think it will last? Followed up by, firstly, would you look at getting into the top 10 coins for the near future or the smaller cap coins for better gains in this run? And secondly, and differently, do we get into NFTs? And have you got any tips around NFTs? Greg asks, what's the best strategy? But I'm sure you'll give us more general tips than that, won't you?
Okay, let's start with the NFTs. Okay, NFTs, non-fungible tokens. You know, the way that we know them as they are at the moment, they are mainly online digital items, but they can represent physical items as well. Okay, so the NFTs will be the way that, for example, once they work out exactly how to do it, it will be the way that property, for example, will be tokenized and made it more of a liquid asset and so on. And there are already digitally, there are some projects that specialize, for example, digitizing shares. So you can go online and buy tokens, you know, for Apple stock, for example, or any other of the major, or Tesla, or any other of the major stock. You can buy so fractions of shares. Okay? Now, the best way to there are 2 ways of dealing with NFTs. One is investing in the platforms that enable NFTs. You know, and you can look at CoinGecko. I mean, I'll show you. This is a good resource. CoinGecko is a great resource to use for information. Let me just show you so you know what to do. And when you go on CoinGecko, and this is, you know, I'll show you this is the screen, the first screen that you can, when you open CoinGecko, this is what you get. So if you go here on the top where it says coins and on categories, if you click on that, you get all these different, this is a kind of a segmentation of all the different projects in, you know, what they may, and some projects are in more than one place, okay, because they represents more than one thing. But if you scroll down, you found the NFT non-fungible tokens category. Click on that, and this is we'll see. Oh, you know, always ordered by market cap size. It shows you the projects that are involved in NFTs. Now, it doesn't mean they're just NFTs projects, but it's something that you can they do something in NFT. Obviously, Axie Infinity is a game, you know, that uses NFTs. Theta Network is not really an NFT project, but they have you know, NFT functionality as well. Flow is an NFT project. Chiliz is an NFT project. Engine Coin is an NFT project. Okay, Decentraland is well known. The Sandbox is well known. It's a metaverse. Gala is another gaming. So you can go and see some of these projects and invest in some of those. Especially, you know, the most famous ones have been Engine Coin and Chiliz probably. You know, that really have grown very fast. And you know, if you want to look at where Engine Coin was at the beginning of the year, it wouldn't have been a bad investment, would it? From 13 cents, you know, it was as high as $3.2, and now it's sitting at about 1.8. This is kind of like the effect that NFT is having on the market. You know, Chiliz as well is being quite remarkable from the point of view of their growth. Okay, a little bit of a hype. Let's say from 5 cents to 73 in 1 to 3 days. Okay, so good thing to invest in. So that's the first way of getting involved with NFTs. Second way of investing, and that's a lot more difficult, is to buy NFTs directly. Okay, on, for example, OpenSea. That's one of the main platforms. OpenSea is in a platform that uses Ethereum, OpenSea.io. Okay, and this is a company. Okay, it's not a blockchain. It's a company. It's an NFT marketplace that has grown from almost zero to at the moment they got over $3 billion of volume every month. Okay, and you can buy single NFTs on here. So you can have a look on the explore, and you can see all the NFTs that are available to buy. Okay, so you can go. A lot of these are. If you click on one, you can see it's an auction. This is the current price, for example, for this NFT. You can buy. The best offer is being kind of $166. As you can see, everything is priced in Ethereum. So you can click on make an offer. And bid to buy that particular NFT. Now, how do you know? What is this particular NFT worth? I mean, it's just a JPEG, really. Okay, it could in 6 months' time be worth a lot, or it could be worth absolutely nothing. Doesn't mean that if you spend $170 to buy this thing, that you'll be able to sell it for $170. Okay, you might be able to sell it for, I don't know, 20,000, 5 million, whatever it is, or you might be able to sell it for zero because nobody wants to buy from it. So to understand what the value is of these things, you really need to dig deep into the community aspect. So each project will have a following, and the bigger project have got huge communities around it. So, for example, the punks movement has got the big following, and the Bored Apes. Again, they got to the point where they're now opening bars and restaurants, membership based, and so on. So the bigger the community is, the more likely it is to keep its value and increase its value, because there is a lot of demand behind it. If not, if you're just a single, if you're a designer drawing some images like this and wants to sell them, it's really difficult to understand what the value of these will be 2, 3, 4 months down the line, 2 years down the line. Okay, so and there is no intrinsic value to any of these items apart from what could be a rarity in some of these projects and what could be kind of a community interest. You got to ask yourself the same with anything. Why would you buy anything in terms of value? Why would you go, if you go up into the high street and you see, I want to buy something that I can resell for a higher price, what would you buy? What would you buy? Let's say you go at a car boot sale, for example, or an antique shop, one of those that sells a bit, kind of like a bit of everything. How would you choose an item that you can sell for a higher price? It's the same thing here. Okay, how would you choose one of these NFTs? And there are, hundreds of thousands of sales of these things. Okay, this is just the latest, the latest ones that have been introduced, I think, in the last few hours. But that literally, it's massive number, and they go from prices that go from literally nothing to tens of thousands. Some of them even in the millions have been sold for. Okay, so that's a more difficult, a lot of a more difficult question to answer. Really you need to understand collecting, and then understand the communities behind these projects. So who are they targeting? What are they selling to? And how much hype there is, how much interest there is in some of these projects. So I hope that answers your question, but it was as usual a long answer to a short question. And for the other questions is that where do you see Bitcoin, and where do you see the top 10 coin going in this bull run? Let's take it as a kind of like a wider question. Where do I say crypto in the long run? And not so much this particular bull run, but what is happening in crypto is that we are bit by bit, industry by industry, taking out the intermediaries. And as we do that, we transfer the value from those industry to the new way of doing things that it's more what's it called, more productive, you know, where it's I can't get the word now in my mind, but basically it can do the same thing in a better way for less money and faster. So whenever you can do something that there is a technology that improves you know, the way that things can be done, obviously money would move that way, business will move that way. And we're not talking about kind of like me and you doing it, but I'm talking from a big business point of view. We've seen the movement from mainframe computers to client servers. You know, even a few years ago, no business was buying its own software anymore. They were just buying kind of subscription models. The software was held on in a cloud, the same way that you can use, for example, you know, Google Sheets or Google Docs or something like that. You don't need to download that software. You can just click on it and start using it. Then, so we've gone from mainframe computing to client server, from client server to cloud computing, and now we're going from cloud computing to blockchain. Okay, and it's kind of like it's an unstoppable trend. Whatever happens to cryptocurrency as a technology, blockchain is the next big thing, and we'll see resources being moved from cloud computing to blockchain. Okay, because it's just more efficient. Okay, so that's the way, and you can't, you know, if you run a business and you're competing with other businesses that have a lower cost base, unless you adjust your cost base, you just go out of business. So this is what's going to happen from the point of view of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in more general terms. Is that, as I said before, I believe that we are coming to an end of our current financial system, and sooner rather than later we're going to have to transition to a different model. And in history, what the model has always been is we've gone back whenever a fiat financial system has collapsed. And by the way, this is not new, but it's, you know, you can go back, have a look in history. It happens roughly every 50 years or so. So this system started in 1971. Now we're in 2021, so it's 50 years exactly. Whenever that happens, we go back to the gold standard. Okay. Now there is an alternative to the gold standard. So there is Bitcoin could be that new monetary standard that gets adopted. And then, you know, then it's not just obviously Bitcoin that will exist, but there will be kind of like an internet of blockchains specializing in different aspects that will deal with different aspects of our life. And this is how I'm seeing it. In this bull run, generally the way the things go is that when Bitcoin starts moving, and it's kind of like a juggernaut, you know, like a tank that's moving. Once it gains momentum, then it destroys everything in its path. Okay, so everybody normally jumps onto Bitcoin when it starts moving, and then when it stops moving, the money starts moving out to whatever the yield is. Okay, so generally we see Bitcoin moving first, and we'll see the other big projects like the top 10 coming after, and then the rest of the market following after that. You know, where the biggest gains are, you know, that's up to you to, depending on your risk appetite. Smaller projects can offer bigger gains, but they are more risky. Larger projects, you know, probably they're still going to be there in 5 years' time. Some of the smaller ones may not. But definitely, you know, if you think a project that is, I don't know, maybe 100 million in size, it's not that difficult for them to go from 100 million to a billion. It's a lot more difficult for Bitcoin to go from 1 trillion to 10 trillion. Okay, so that's the thing, you know. So it's bigger rewards for smaller projects, bigger risk, and it's always that way. You know, risk goes in tandem with rewards. So
we've got a couple of other questions, but I really want to interrupt because for the first time ever, Andrew's actually asked a really smart question. Now, again, I don't mean to offend anybody. Andrew is my friend and colleague, so I wouldn't speak about anybody else like that. But it's something that I wonder. I often hear you speak about Cardano and have for months. And just last week, Jonathan mentioned that you sometimes describe Cardano as a coiled spring. And we all know about the potential that it may have. But Andrew's quite right. It has a huge market cap, but the price never really seems to move that much. And many of us are sort of waiting for this big move on Cardano. So why is that? And what are we waiting for?
So let me say, if you could ask Andrew, what would you consider a move? So, say if he moved 5 times more than Bitcoin, would you say it would be a good move? I don't know. Just asking the question.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, says Andrew. Yes, 50 cents.
All right. So Bitcoin, what has Bitcoin done from the start of the year? We've gone from 30,000 to 65,000. It is right now, pretty much 62, 63, so doubled. Yeah. Cardano has gone up 10 times from the start of the year as it moved. Everybody is always like concentrating on what happens in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Just zoom out, guys. Zoom out and look at things for what they are. Look at data. It's there in front of your eyes. Now, Cardano has released smart contracts in the mid-September, so barely a month ago. Now, they released smart contracts. Smart contracts are new. They released a new programming language that people need to learn. Once they learn this programming language, they then have to build applications that will include a number of smart contracts. So a dApp is a combination of smart contracts. Okay, there are many of them, and a lot of development behind it. So it takes time for all these things. It also takes time to get certified, because once they have developed certain applications, then you get a certification company like Certic, for example, need to come in and certify the code. Now, what's the problem with that? The problem with that is that there are very few companies that can certify Cardano's code because it's a new language. So there is a bottleneck. There is a bottleneck there with lots of projects that are really just like chomping at the bit because they are prepared their apps and they're ready to release it, but they're not quite certified yet, and they're waiting for that to happen. But we haven't seen anything yet on Cardano. That's why it hasn't moved, because the apps, the important applications haven't been released yet, and these are coming to market now in the last quarter. It could be that it moves in a month. It could be it moves in 3 months. There is no issue with Cardano and the solidity of the project at all. So yeah, I would say people ask me always, like, what's the best time to buy anything? Would you want to buy something like Bitcoin right now, which is at all-time high, and it kind of like went up 50% in 2 weeks? When I want to buy now, or you want to buy 2 weeks ago when it hadn't moved and it been going nowhere for 2 months? So that's the question. Actually, boring is good. Boring is good. It gives you an opportunity to enter the market. And you got to understand that. You got to understand the project that are doing good work are the ones that will grow, because they are doing good work, because they're developing good technology. Not because look at that, is Shiba Inu has grown 200% this week. Let's buy some of that. This is rubbish. We're talking about technology that is going to change lives, and it takes time to develop these things. It doesn't come out in 2 minutes. If it did, you would have to worry about it. I'll look at it the other way around, really. Okay.
You said that on a private call last week, Luca, and I said to you, I think that's probably one of your best maxims or mottos. Things are interesting when they're boring. It's really nice.
Well, from an investing point of view, exactly. Yeah. From an investing point of view, definitely.
So we have got a couple of quick fire questions, and even though we haven't got much time left, I'm sure we're going to be able to get through them. I will ask them in the order that they came in, if I can find them. The first one was from Heli, and it was about the staking and the tokens and the things that you were explaining to us earlier. And really, she just wanted clarification. Is she right to think that this is a higher risk strategy than just simply staking and not risking your coins in such a way?
Sorry, was the question for, so I can read it, because it's
Sure, it's a little bit further up, and it is in reference to what you were talking about at the time, so it might appear slightly confusing. I'm still looking for it, I'm afraid. So this was from Leah, actually, not from Ellie. Is this strategy, the one that when you were showing us about the various staking options? Yes. Is this strategy for people who are more risk accepting, as the tokens may be useless or very worthy in the future?
it's quite the opposite, because with Polkadot, if you support a parachain auction, the tokens never leave your wallet. So you still have your tokens in your wallet, very safe as they can be, and they just bonded in a sense that they bonded to that project. So I mean, if you know anything about Polkadot, you know that Polkadot in 2 years' time is going to be worth a lot more than it is now. Okay, so in 2 years' time, or let's say that depends really on the project that you're supporting. It could go from anything from 3 months to 2 years, all right? Depending on what kind of slot they apply for, they bid for. But for the duration, I mean, most projects will apply for the longer possible duration, which is 2 years. So for those 2 years, you can't use your Polkadot, but you're going to have these other tokens, you know, in exchange. So the worst that could happen is that those tokens that you're given are worth nothing, but you still will have your Polkadot at the end of it. And if it was me, is one of the tokens that I hold, and I will still hold in 2 years' time, is Polkadot, definitely. So I'm not worried about that at all. It's very safe. In 2 years' time, I'm going to have those back to do what I want with it, and I'm going to have more tokens as well from the reward. And just to tell you, because those auctions are already going on in Kusama, which is the sister blockchain to Polkadot. It's always often been described as the canary in the coal mine. In a sense, they used a little bit like a testnet for Polkadot projects. So there are already many auctions that are taking place in Kusama, parachain auctions. And one of the most successful ones, which is Moonbreather, which is available to buy now. You can just buy on the open market. It's available on Kraken, definitely. I'm not quite sure if it's on Binance as well, but it's grown 7 times. So, if you had your Polkadot in the meantime, will have grown 30%. That has grown 700%. So, it would have been without you having to part with any money. Okay. So just to make it.
Great answer. So a couple more questions in the chat. But Leah, sorry, please do come in on your question. Apologies. Please feel free to mute yourself and let's continue with this while you're there.
So thank you for your answer, Luca. But isn't it like that? I mean, either you can choose besides from your investment in Polkadot, you can choose for having a certain interest, or you can look for opportunity that maybe get up much higher, or maybe have not the interest at all. So it is like, for aiming very high, maybe, or for certain interest in the coming 2 years. Is that what I understand from you?
Yeah, this is exactly what I said earlier on. So there is an opportunity cost, because for those 2 years you won't receive Polkadot interest, but you will receive these new tokens, and these new tokens generally, I mean, depends on the project. So you need to look at the singular project, but most of these projects will also offer staking rewards. So you might receive staking rewards in new projects. So you still get some rewards, just they won't be in Polkadot, it will be in these other projects.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Great stuff.
And generally, by the way, because these projects want you to support them, they generally are offering very good rewards. Okay, so generally are better than you could get on Polkadot generally. But not an investment advice. Okay, but just go and study. You got to have a look at the different projects that are participating in the auction. Go and read their documents and everything, and then you can make a decision. If you say you don't have to support them, but it's a way that you can get access to some new projects that will have a lot of volume behind them, because if the projects win the auction, they already have a lot of interest because everybody's supporting them, so that means that their price will go up quite high, because they got a number of community members that already want to get involved. So almost like it's a way of assuring the success of the winners, because the community has taken notice, they're supporting them already. Okay. All right.
So we've got some questions, 3 questions here, relatively short ones, so we should be able to get through them quickly. From Heli, Julie, and from Jaya. Heli wants to know about the Bitcoin ETF, or the ETFs that include Bitcoin. Is that something we should be looking at, and if so, when? Now or later?
Well, I mean, with Bitcoin ETF, I mean, really is for people that cannot, or institutions that cannot buy Bitcoin directly. So the reason why you would look at it is, for example, if you had a self-invested pension fund, okay, and you wouldn't be allowed to buy Bitcoin with that directly, but an ETF is a regulated investment. So you can buy just like you buy any shares. So if you can buy Apple shares on the New York Stock Exchange, then you can buy an ETF as well. And so pension funds, particular investment funds that are not allowed by the statutes to invest in unregulated investments can now buy a Bitcoin ETF. Okay, but to be honest with you, for you and me, if you have a Binance account or a Kraken account, you can just buy it directly. You don't need an ETF.
Thank you. Question from Julie. Thoughts on investing in miners? They seem to be moving to different countries and energy systems. So the question is, what about investing in miners?
That is it's a kind of investment that is good for investing in shares. And these are companies, again, they are not generally quoted on the Nasdaq or on the Canadian Stock Exchange. So these are companies, they have been set up and they got big operations where they have thousands of Bitcoin mining machines. Okay, and generally they connect with energy companies so they can get their energy at very low cost, and they connect to renewable energy sources as well. And what's interesting about Bitcoin miners is that recently, because there has been a lot of institutional interest, there has been a lot of investment in these companies, and where before they had to sell most of their Bitcoin to finance their operations, because to pay for the costs. Now they don't need to do that anymore because they have investments. So those investments will cover their costs for many years to come. And what they're doing instead, they're just like holding the Bitcoins that they're creating. And that has caused also a really scarcity of Bitcoins on the market, because all the Bitcoins that were being created, they were being bought by companies like Square, like PayPal, and other companies that want exposure to Bitcoin. Now that flow of Bitcoin on the market is completely dried up, because some of these companies that were selling 50-60% of the Bitcoin they were mining, now they're selling barely 10% or less. So they're keeping them all because they know that they rather keep Bitcoin on the on the books than keeping cash. And so in a way they are turning into kind of like money printing machines, these companies. So they are good generally. They are good investments. Now you got to do a little bit of research and see, because there is some competition in that as well. So which ones are the most efficient, which ones are open-80 in areas that will not give them any trouble from the regulatory point of view and so on. But they're very good. They're very good investments. Very good investments.
Wonderful. Final question from Jaya. It's a practical issue, and that probably will be helpful to more than just Jaya. I would like to know this. I'm trying to install MetaMask in Brave browser, but I'm not able to do so. Is there anything I need to be aware of?
Not really. I mean, I've got it installed in Brave, and it's perfectly fine. I mean, it just maybe we can look at it on Monday, on a call, on a private call, Jaya, because it's straightforward. I mean, Brave is a kind of like a clone of Chrome as well, so it's it should be straightforward if you follow the instructions. There are instructions, step by step, and it should be straightforward. It literally takes 5 minutes.
I might add to that, Jaya, and it's nothing to do with MetaMask specifically. It's just the fact that I have recently had to take Brave completely off my device and reload it because it did an update and it really started to make a mess of things. So maybe, you know, struggles arise because of that. Maybe roll back the update or check to see if you need an update on the browser. Could be something like that. And Stan wants to ask if I can buy some Solana so the price will drop. Well, I was hoping somebody else would be able to take the reins here because I do seem to be providing quite a good service lately. I don't intend to buy any Solana, but I might top up my ADA later over the weekend. So keep your eye on that because there might be an opportunity.
Okay, there's one thing actually maybe for Jaya that I wanted to share that maybe the problem could be at that, and it's nothing to do with MetaMask, but more like with the browser itself. Can you see my screen now? Okay, so if you look on the side here where the where the extensions are, if you click on this icon here, which is like the puzzle piece, you can see all the extensions, and you need to, when you first load MetaMask, you'll see the extension will be unpinned. So if I touch this and now it's unpinned, you can't see it here anymore. Okay, you need to instead click on that and pin it like this. And now when it's red, you can see it now on the address bar. Okay, maybe that could be as simple as that. Okay, because when you first install it, just go, it loads the extension, but then you have to pin it to be able to see. Okay, I hope that it's just that. Otherwise, we can look at it on Monday. But the other thing you can do, I mean, if you have trouble, try and install it on Chrome and see if that works. You can install MetaMask on Chrome or on Firefox as well. Okay. All right.
Wonderful. Well, thank you to everybody, especially to Luca, as ever, of course. Please, as I said, don't mind my English sarcasm. Questions are entirely optional. But just to remind you, when I go through the week, I'm really lucky because I tend to have Luca on speed dial because we work quite closely together and I'm constantly firing questions at him. So this is an opportunity to make a list through the week while you're looking at cryptos and use this hour to get topped up on your knowledge. But as I say, it's totally optional, but thank you for all those of you who have asked questions and for everybody for a great turnout as well. We are pushing Crypto Hour a little bit harder as we come into the end of the year because Luca will be launching his Q4 micro school, and I think we'll probably be announcing that next week. I haven't spoken to Luca, so I don't want to give him any surprises, but I'm hoping he's going to be doing some really nice special offers so that if you guys have friends and colleagues and family members who you want to bring into the crypto world and get trained up in time for Christmas, you'll be able to do that. So that's enough from me. Thank you for everybody. Back over to Luca for his bye-byes.
Okay, no, thank you very much as well. For taking part. It's always a pleasure. For those of you that are part of my on my Down With You program, I will see you on Monday evening as usual. For anybody else, I look forward to seeing you again next Friday. So have a good week. And if you haven't bought any cryptos yet, then don't wait too long, guys. Okay, just tell you that it's not financial advice. We might see a lot of movement in the next 2 or 3 months, okay, before the end of the year. So just telling you that. All right. So thank you very much, and see you again next week.
Cheers, everybody.